My grandfather never talked much about what went on when he was in the service during World War II. He kept very quiet about such matters, I think because they didn't know anything about PTSD or any of those kind of things that soldiers faced after coming home from combat. Grandpa kept everything quiet because I don't think he wanted to relive any of those memories. I can remember when I was in 7th grade, I was given an assignment to write a paper about my hero. And at the time, my grandfather seemed incredibly heroic because he was a World War II veteran. So my family and I drove over to see him, and I started asking him questions about what it was like to serve in World War II. Grandpa didn't talk about combat at all. He talked a little bit about what it was like to train and what the food was like. The only thing he made about the war was it was hell. He gave me a book to read, a book with various articles about things that his particular unit did, but he still didn't talk about it. So the stories that I have were somehow appropriated by my father and others, and they passed them down to me. The story that I would like to share with you today, I am entitling Brave. It seems that on one excursion into, I believe, Italy, my grandfather and his unit came to a particular area where there was a ridge, and my grandfather's commanding officer came up to him and said, "Willie, I want you to take your men and go up on that ridge and go up ahead up there and march ahead." Something to that effect. And my grandfather said, "Sir, with all due respect, that's prime ambush country up there. We should send out scouts to see if the Germans are waiting for us." The commanding officer apparently didn't like having his orders challenged, and so he went off on a tirade against my grandfather and told him in no uncertain terms that he was to take his men up upon that ridge and go ahead. My grandfather stood firm. He was a little angry at this point, and so rather tersely he said, "Sir, with all due respect, we need to send scouts up on that ridge to see if the Germans are waiting in ambush." The commanding officer was having none of that. He became very angry with my grandfather, cussed him up one side, down the other, swore that he would have him court-martialed, and then demanded that he take his men and go up on the ridge. At that point, my grandfather drew his service pistol, cocked it, and put the barrel right on the middle of his commanding officer's forehead. And he said, "Sir, we will send scouts. We will see if the Germans are waiting for us." Of course, the commanding officer wasn't going to argue with that, and so he sent out scouts ahead. Sure enough, the Germans were waiting in ambush. My grandfather's decision to risk being court-martialed and dishonorably discharged was validated because he cared more for his men and doing the right thing. He had the courage to stand up when sometimes many others would not. And I am here today because he was willing to be brave.